Before smartphones and the Nintendo Switch, we had the Game Boy. This little brick wasn't just a console, it was a lifestyle. The Game Boy was built like a tank. No, seriously, it survived wars, got run over, and still powered on. And let's talk about the design. It had that iconic green-tinted screen, a D-pad that felt perfect, and a battery life that put modern consoles to shame. Who else remembers playing this everywhere? Drop a video game in the comments.
Nintendo kept it simple. No flashy graphics, just games that hooked you. Who needed HD visuals when Tetris, Pokémon, and Super Mario Land were this addictive? The Game Boy had legendary titles. Pokémon wasn't just a game, it was a movement. Link's Awakening brought Zelda to a tiny screen, and Metroid 2? A masterpiece in 8-bit form. Which Game Boy game was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Then came the Game Boy Color. Full color, sleeker design, and games that pushed the limits. Pokémon Gold and Silver? They evolved everything. And who could forget Wario Land 3 or Super Mario Bros. Deluxe? It wasn't just an upgrade, it was a whole new vibe. And those transparent atomic purple models? Still elite. Did you have a Game Boy Color? What was your go-to game? Then Nintendo said, let's go even harder. And boom, the Game Boy Advance dropped. Full 32-bit graphics, legendary ports like Super Mario World, and absolute bangers like Metroid Fusion, Golden Sun, and Advance Wars. And the GBA SP? That backlit screen changed lives. No more struggling under a lamp at night. This was peak Game Boy evolution. Who else remembers the GBA era? Let's hear your favorite memories. Nintendo knew how to get us. The Game Boy camera and printer made us feel like tech geniuses. And if you had a worm light for playing in the dark, instant street cred. Remember the Rumble cartridge in Pokémon Pinball? Or the e-reader that let you scan cards to unlock content? Nintendo was always ahead of the curve. Did you own any of these Game Boy accessories? Let's hear your favorites.
But here's what modern consoles still haven't nailed: the battery life. The OG Game Boy could run for up to 30 hours on AA batteries. Compare that to your Switch barely lasting a flight. Running out of power? Just swap in fresh AAs. No waiting for a recharge, just back to gaming instantly. Who else remembers gaming for hours without worrying about battery life?
Decades later, the Game Boy refuses to die. People are modding them, adding backlit screens, and even making new games for them. The community is thriving. You can even play Game Boy games on the Switch now, but there's something about holding the real thing, that feeling is unmatched. Are you still playing on a Game Boy today? Let me know in the comments. The Switch and the Steam Deck owe everything to the Game Boy. Nintendo invented portable gaming as we know it. Without this chunky legend, there's no Switch, no DS, no PSP. And that's why we still talk about it, because it wasn't just a console. It was the start of something bigger. Do you think the Game Boy is still the greatest handheld ever?
If you still have your old Game Boy, never let it go. Retro gaming is booming, and original consoles are getting pricey. Even used Game Boys are climbing in value. And if you want to relive that nostalgia, there are tons of retro handhelds that can play these classics, so the legacy lives on. Do you still own a Game Boy, or are you on the hunt for one?
Want to add a Game Boy to your collection? Check out my shop for restored, modded, and collector's edition Game Boys. Links in the bio. Don't miss out. Tag a friend who needs to see this. Let's keep the retro love alive. If you love classic gaming, make sure to follow for more retro content.